Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Mike Madarani.
I'm Sarah Hazy.
And I'm Antonio Mayo.
And today we are excited to have another special guest with us, Tom Daly, SharePoint developer, collaboration director at SOHO Dragon, a fellow MVP, and a friend. We've been friends for many, many years. And why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Mike, and thanks, everybody. Yes, so my name is Thomas Daly, and I am based out of New Jersey. A SharePoint person from the beginnings, like, say, SharePoint 2003, but I've used it prior to. I've always been doing SharePoint development during that time, and I've slowly grown and taken on different roles. Like Mike said, I'm the collaboration director in charge of a lot of our Office 360 projects with SOHO Dragon, and that's in New York City. So it's a lot of fun, a lot of challenges. I like dealing with customers and clients and solving problems and actually getting my hands dirty with development when I can. So also, yeah, like you said, MVP. I've been an MVP for 4 years now, so I'm going on my 5th, and I absolutely love being part of the program, and I appreciate it because it gives me a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things for people.
And to help organize events that we come to.
Yes.
In COVID years, because I think all of us have been to your little event in the summertime in the city.
Yes. Yeah, so that's another big part of this whole thing is the user groups. I run the user groups in New Jersey and help with the Teams Tuesdays in New York, and I run boot camps for Azure, Office 365, which is one of these things. We run that every year in New York and New Jersey, and then the big events that everybody talks about the SharePoint Saturday in New York, which we're all dying to get back to.
Yes.
Everyone is.
Hardly know what to do with myself in late July if I'm not going to New York. So fantastic. All right.
Okay,
so we explained from what we're doing, right, Mike?
Yes. So we're gonna basically fire a few questions at you. We want to get your opinion on. You're an expert you've been developing SharePoint, like you said, for many years right now. You've done a lot of branding. So we want to just chat with you about the branding in SharePoint Online, more specifically in modern SharePoint these days. So we'll take turns asking you questions and multiple sub-questions sometimes, and don't mind the multiple questions, and you can ask us more questions if you want. If you want to fire back questions, that's fine. We can do that. So with that, who wants to start?
I'll kick us off with a relatively straightforward starting question, and then we'll get into the 54 questions with 14 subparts. But when it comes to SharePoint or SharePoint Online, for those of you, because we do have listeners that have SharePoint on-prem as well, but when it comes to SharePoint Online, what does the modern branding experience look like? Because we always hear about what branding can you really do in SharePoint Online? Right,
that's a good question. I always associate like a lot of the UI components, like the navigation, the footer, with like branding. So on modern, it's interesting because in classic, you can kind of, there's always been a problem in my eyes about global navigation, like navigating from site to site or subsite to subsite. Really, it's more about navigating from site collection to site collection because each one had its own navigation structure. So on classic version, I've always built a global navigation solution, and I have a GitHub project for those things. And on modern, it originally came out, it was the same problem. There was no way to connect. There was this great flat architecture that Microsoft was promoting where you'd create these site collections, but it still never solved the problem on navigation. You could never link them properly. Then fast forward, hub sites come out, right? So hub sites give you the ability to connect the site collections and generate some sort of global, I would consider it level 1 global navigation, right? Where you can, it's not dynamic where in the SharePoint classic world, whether it would just bubble up, once you connect them. That would be nice, but it's a very manual process where you enter in the links, and you don't have to have links in your hub site navigation to other sites. But this creates another problem with the two-tier navigation. So you get your hub navigation at the top, and then you get specific site navigation also in the top as well. So it's a little bit of a disconnection in my my eyes, I'm like, okay, hub site navigation solves the global navigation. But what I'm really excited about is this next part that's coming out under development. Like I'm looking at the roadmap, right? So having the app bar and another true global navigation solution. So that's under development. Yeah, well, I don't know if they've demoed it yet or if anybody's seen it yet, but I'm excited just hearing about it and knowing that it's on the way. I think they did demo something in the past.
They did at Ignite, and we
Right.
had DC Padour on, I think, right after Ignite of 2020, and we talked a little bit about it. And the one thing, and then I'll back off and let Antonio and Mike ask questions. But the one thing that it's going to require for global navigation, in order to really control it well and to be able to define your global nav settings, you're going to need a home site as well. Do you want to tell them a little bit about what a home site is?
Yeah, I read the technical details on a home site and I was just confused at like, what really is it, right? It's really just like your landing page for your intranet. You know, there's not much there. What I feel like it was like it's like a marketing term for just like, hey, this is our homepage. I didn't see anything that we don't already, you know, there maybe was one or two things that we already have, but I felt
it's got
like
a couple of extra bells and whistles, but it does have to be a SharePoint communication site.
right.
And it has to be via PowerShell elevated to be the home site. And you can only get to like your global navigation settings through that home site. So from a branding experience, if people want all of those capabilities that you're talking about that's soon to be coming, they're going to have to designate a home site.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I haven't read, like I'm a little bit behind on the home site front, but I will definitely follow up and look at that.
So for with that topic, organizations that do not have home sites or organizations that are very, very large, and we know that you can only have one home site per tenant. So if you have multiple intranets, you're going to have one home site. But what other options I have? If I cannot use the global nav that comes with the home site, do I have other options other than the hub navigation or the regular nav?
Yeah, you certainly do. There's things that you can do in SharePoint. I mean, it involves development. So you would have to, there's in the development world, there's an application customizer. It's an SPFX extension that you can build. And what that does is it adds things to the top or the bottom. There's two zones on your page, the top placeholder and the bottom placeholder. And it allows you to write your own code and inject whatever functionality you want in the header or footer. So this is another GitHub project that I have in my GitHub repo because I built it before hub site navigation. So it allows you to just create like a list or pull navigation from some other structure, like you know, it could be a text file, it could be managed metadata, however you want to set it up on the back end. You're just reading in that information and then you're presenting it in the zones that you have on the modern page.
Okay.
So that's one way that you can do it. Yes, it involves development. It involves some skills. It doesn't really translate well if you're using, you know, there's this weird gray area still if you're on a classic site and you have these modern pages, right? And you're flipping back and forth, you know.
That still happens.
It still happens here because if you build a solution with an application customizer, it doesn't work on the classic site. So if you're in that area, you have to then build two solutions or, you know, figure out another way.
Got it. Cool.
So when you do what you just suggested, Tom, you use an application customizer. What you just described, you're effectively building your own mega menu, typically for navigation, right? Is that a Microsoft supported customization of sites? I know there's always a question around what can you do and what are you permitted to do and what should you do. Mm-hmm. Is that a supported method?
Yeah, in my eyes, I think it's a supported method because as long as you don't move outside. So again, like you have a box on the page, it's hidden. You don't see it. It's there all the time. You now build something. As long as you don't reach outside of your box and touch other things and manipulate the page, then you're still in line with Microsoft's, you know, vision. And they're basically, you know, they don't support any custom development technically, but there's a lot of support out there like GitHub and blogs and websites and things like that. But yeah, they won't like, they're not going to fault you either for putting in something else, but it's up to you to support it. But yeah, don't reach outside of your box and you're pretty much fine.
That's a great way. Go ahead, Sarah.
It's a great way to put it, because I never thought about it that way in terms of developing within the frame or the box. Do you find organizations that really need to kind of expand their thinking to use both the header and the footer? Because I would think that they don't necessarily take all of those opportunities.
Yes. The answer is yes. So I have problems with the footer. Number one, I have problems with the header and footer sections. One problem right now that there is, and this is like a little bit of a side, I'm going to come back to that, answer that question. It squeezes the page. The more you put into these things, it will shrink the scroll of the page. So your scroll will like get smaller and smaller and smaller. So, and I've worked with various clients where we built big footers, and you got to collapse them. You know, you got to build it. You can make it bigger, but you got to make sure that they can collapse it. Right, and then it sticks there across all your sessions and all that stuff. That's one of my complaints that I'll get out right away. But do people want to go outside of their area? And of course, they all want to. Every single client I know wants to go out of their zone. That's one of the things that I'm asked constantly when we talk about branding and what we can do. It's like, well, we want to do all this, and I say, oh, well, you know, that's not technically supported, but we could do it if you want to take on that support. Like if something breaks, you have to fix it, and to have the right things in place where maybe one environment is on early release and another one's on the targeted release, so you can catch things early, right? But someone's got to be looking at the other tenant in order for that to work.
So you get that question a lot. What can we do in terms of branding? And how do you, like, what do you see in terms of what's supported and what's not supported? Like beyond the header and footer, like you've talked about that with application customizers. What else is in fact supported in modern SharePoint from a branding perspective?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple little things that they all basically tie into the theme. So the number one thing you have to do is create a theme for your SharePoint site that you and it's pretty easy. You go to the website and you can generate a theme, right? That's the first step, and it allows you to at least do the basic colors. You know, you'll get for the most part, I would say you can pick other colors, but you get one primary color out of it. And so if you have 3 colors in your brand, 3 primaries, you're only seeing like, you're only going to get really one out of those. Okay. If there's, you know, so that's sort of like there's not enough variety for me in that. But okay, so moving forward from just the regular theme, a lot of the web parts tie into the theme now, and a lot of the page elements tie into the theme. So the header you can customize the header where in certain tenants there's going to be certainly more options than right now. They're actually rolling out a lot of features right now. There's like 4 variations, I think, of the header where you can change that around. In one of my tenants, I have the ability to hide the site title, which is great. If you're going to upload a logo with the site title in it, you can hide the site title. Yeah. But that's not in every tenant that I've seen yet. And then there's certain things, the header, you can change the background color of the header. You can upload a logo, and a lot of complaints were, hey, we have a square logo or we have a rectangular logo. Right now, with the features coming out, you'll be able to upload a square or a rectangular logo at the same time. Nice. So those are some of the little bits and pieces, which I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but where we were 2 years ago or a year ago, we had nothing, and now we're coming together. So I would love to see more. And every time there's like something released, I'm like looking for these little bits. Like we're at the end of the, you know, a year later, we're gonna have so much more than what we had a year ago. So
before Sarah and Mike jump in with another, I'm gonna throw in part 2 of this. What about things like skinning built-in SPFX web parts with CSS, say to change the look or to put outlines around or to put, you know, your colors right onto web parts? Is that a supported I'll say branding, because it is kind of branding if you've got corporate colors and you want to build them into your web parts. Is that a supported thing?
Okay, so I heard two different things, but I'll take it apart and see where we go.
Sure.
So, is it supported to modify the SharePoint ones out of the box? No, and you're not supposed to mess with those, because again, they're going to be making changes to those periodically, and what's going to happen is it's not going to be today or tomorrow. It may be a month later, or a week later, a year later. They're going to make a change, and they're going to change, and it's not going to look the same eventually. So that's what I would say officially on that. Okay. Don't do it, right? But have I done it? Yes, absolutely. So with the application customizer, you can inject CSS, and then you can add a color or two to an out-of-the-box web part that may look a little flat, right? Yeah. So I've done that. Shame on me, but the client demanded it, and they paid for it. So I gave them the warnings, I gave them the disclaimer. Now the second thing I heard in your question is with maybe you're building your own SPFX web parts, right?
Yeah, that was my next part to the question.
Mm-hmm. What are you allowed to do with those? And the answer is you could do whatever you want. Okay. Anything you want to do. That's your area, that's your zone. It's safe to do it, so you can just feel free to do whatever. Now, right, there's you don't want to go too crazy. It won't really fit in with the rest of the plain web part, but that's.
So I have a follow-up question, because I always do. Mike, I don't know what you're going to do with Antonio and I, because we just never stop asking questions.
I'm going to ask like 5 questions in a row after you.
Okay.
Fire.
What about companies that have, only because I've worked with some in the past, that have a custom font, and they want the font to look a custom font?
That's a good one.
Yes, so I had that request before to do a custom font for a large organization. They initially, and a lot of this, how this stuff comes about is usually there's a design firm somewhere involved, right? That gives them this crazy looking mock-up, right? All just made up. They didn't even, SharePoint Office 365 wasn't even a word when they were designing it. So then you'll get handed these things, and it'll say, it'll be like, well, what's the font? So you really can't. I was actually asked this yesterday too. You really can't override the SharePoint fonts. Like, I mean, from Microsoft's perspective, from the official perspective, you shouldn't do it, because they're gonna change something. It's not gonna work tomorrow. When you write CSS, you target specific elements on the page based on their ID or their class or some attribute that's unique that gets changed on occasion when they do updates. So I would say you can't do it, but I have done it, again, where I've targeted simpler things like web part titles or page titles. I'm not attacking the body font. So I would say, leave the body font if possible alone. If you are going to take the route where you're going to just take it in your own hands to customize it, do like what I would say you could do the web part titles or maybe the site title, something simple, and be prepared to update it when it breaks. That's all.
So let's take a step back here a bit, and we've talked about themes and how you brand your sites, but we're not going to build one site. We're going to have this information architecture. We're going to have hundreds of sites. We're going to start building the whole merging, migrating from classic to modern, whatever that is. At the end of the day, we have to create those sites. How do we go into making sure that we have that consistency in the branding? Back in the days with classic sites, we create a master page and everything inherits from the master page. You have page layouts, a master page, and everything is fine. But with modern and themes, and you have that architecture, how do you make sure that you give the end user when they create a site or they provision a new site that has the same theme, that has the same colors, the same logos, so you have that consistent look and feel?
Yeah, that's so to do that, right? Yeah, it's a much more complicated world in modern to keep all this consistent. When you build a modern page, you're building a site collection, which has its own features and its own look and feel. Now, when you create a hub site and you link them, it will take over the theme from the hub site. So the way that you can one way to do it is to create hub sites and when you do that, you will then inherit the theme for that hub site. And the header. Now that's just one thing. Now, if you had some of those customizations we talked about in this session, like those illegal customizations, that would be probably deployed as a feature. And all you'd have to do is just, when you create that site collection, activate the feature or add an app. You know, I'd say feature, but really you're just adding an app, and your feature is the app. So you would go to every single one individually and activate that feature in order to get the same look and feel. And if you've updated the code, if you updated the CSS of this feature, you would dump that in the app catalog, and it would automatically update all of the sites at one shot. All right. And if you updated the theme, it would automatically update all of the sites that it was connected to.
But it's more than like CSS and fonts and colors. What about they want the specific structure of specific items or web parts on the page, specific layouts on the page, because they want to have that consistency in creating, let's say, projects. They want to have some web parts on that page, and then they want to have some backend lists and document libraries. So we're creating that kind of, what we called it before, templates.
Yeah. And templates I always associate with as a branding. You know, you're creating a look and feel. I love that question because it's also another on the top 10 hit list of like what everybody asks when you go into a meeting about setting up a site. So how do we, and again, we are so much further along than we were a year ago. I feel this. How do we create consistent sites or consistent pages? So there's a couple things that you can do. There's page templates where you can create one page and you can save it as a template and you can reuse it. And the second thing, for the site level, you can do what's known as a site script. So when you go to create a new site, you're seeing a toggle box for team site or communication site. And under communication site, it's got blank, it's got showcase, and one of the other ones I never use. I always pick blank. So topic, there you go. All right, that's the trivia question right there. So those are essentially site templates. We were never able to, they've been around for a while. So you can go ahead and create your own site template. And what it is it's a JSON object that defines the structure of your site. I believe there's a builder out there for it. It's actually, there's a documentation on what you can put in there. And what that'll do is that'll create your lists, your libraries. It'll apply a theme. There's a number of things it will do, but it won't do anything heavy duty. Like it won't move stuff around, meaning it won't move things around on the page. It won't set up your home page, or won't set up a page with web parts. So inside the site script, there's a way to call in Azure. There's a way to call a flow from there. And then you can, from your flow, you can do a lot of stuff. I mean, you can do things on the back end, but in like creating a site layout, you would probably want to create an Azure function with PowerShell PNP to connect to your site and manipulate it, like after the fact. So I've done this quite a few times, like a provisioning process. And I know we're probably, if you've heard this PNP provisioning or this provisioning process, you've probably heard of the lookbook, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, everybody's seen it. I always point everybody to go to the lookbook to see what's possible out of the box. And then, but in those lookbooks, you can type in your site name and it'll provision exactly that. So that's how they're doing it. You type in your site name, it uses Azure function. You grow your graph permissions, connects to your site. You have to authorize it, and it creates the thing for you. So essentially, you're just doing that same process. And they release that process on GitHub, so you can look at what they're doing. I mean, it's the Microsoft level process. You can do it in a lot less steps, I think. But yeah, that's the enterprise level. So yeah, I think that answers all those points on that. Is there anything that I leave out? I don't think so.
So you think this is your recommended way is just follow what you just described with Azure functions and follow the lookbook methods, if you want to call it, to kind of provision your own custom sites with with custom layouts?
Yeah, if you're creating like a bunch of, the first thing is identifying what you really need. Like what is it? If we're creating a bunch of department sites, we all want them to look the same, right? We don't want our department sites looking, letting our users go in and adding, or at least give them a starting point. They can customize it later. So the way that you do that is through the site templates, right? And if you need to set up the web parts, then you have to do the Azure function. If you're just setting up lists and libraries and then you're letting them go, site script, you can get away with just the site script, but it really takes it up another level once you have that PowerShell PNP in there.
Got it.
That's cool. Tom, I'm interested in what you're excited about with regards to the roadmap. So new stuff that's coming out in terms of, SharePoint modern page development or SharePoint branding. What kind of new stuff that's coming out that you're really excited about and looking forward to?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I looked at the roadmap. I'm always waiting to see what's coming out. There is something that's rolling out right now with the site title, to hide the site title, because I get that a little bit here and there, hide the site title because it's in our logo, so we don't need to see it. The new header options are always exciting, but the thing is the global navigation, because this has been like a thorn in my side ever since, and I'm almost not sure it's going to solve all my problems, but is it another offering? Is another opportunity there? Yeah, maybe. That's what I'm really excited about and seeing next, but it's not there. So I didn't answer your question greatly. My real answer to your question is I'm not excited enough. Like, I think there should be more, and I feel like speaking on behalf of the clients and customers that I talk to, they just want more. They want to be able to customize more, right? So I'm a little disappointed that I can't say, oh, I'm excited about XYZ, because I feel like we're seeing a lot of great functionality come out in other areas, right? But I really want to see us have more zones that we can deal with. Maybe we want to replace our search. Maybe we want to replace our navigation completely, and bring our own solution to the table. One of the things that I hear about on the boards, like being able to just replace the header altogether, just bring our own header. Like, think of the pages as little replaceable zones. Yeah, leave the content. They're doing a great job with the content. They're doing a great job bringing out web parts, giving us just maybe more options with the theme to see more colors. People want to see more. I'm going to say it. They want to see more pop. I get this all the time. Can I just get a little pop on the page? And I hate it. It makes me cringe. I just want to see a little pop. What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay. They just want to see a little color pop. The pages are a little bit flat in a lot of the ways, where like the web, like I said, you get the one color, the primary theme, maybe see 3 colors, or to be able to just maybe do a little bit more. I'm asking for a lot, I know, but
no, I don't think so. Like, I've heard similar things from customers when building modern pages, even with communication sites where you can have some full bleed web parts. I've heard customers complain about all the white space. It's like, why is there so much white space? Why can't we put more stuff there? And it's like, I'm sorry, but we can't. Like, this is what we can do without going to some extreme lengths on customizing.
Yeah, you need the breathing room. I understand breathing room.
I agree. Yeah,
a lot of people. I've worked at a lot of places. They want it so tight, like a sandwich, right? Like a 10-foot sandwich is smashed down into one.
Everything everywhere. Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
What you said there kind of leads me to my last question, which is, you may have already answered this, but I'll ask you to repeat yourself. What is your personal opinion around should people brand and customize the look and feel of SharePoint? And I want your opinion.
Yeah.
Not we here, because we've all been MVPs for a long time. We've been in the rooms at the MVP Summit where Microsoft tells us don't brand SharePoint. But what's your opinion based on what you've seen from customers?
I get both sides of the story. I understand why, and I've had this argument with people. Not a bad heated argument, but it's an app. Why would you want to brand an app? No, it's not an app. A lot of companies And then this is changing too with teams, like, and what's their corporate entity that people go to, like their intranet. What is their intranet? Or what is their portal? Right. So it comes back to that question. But I believe that we should brand it. I believe you can't have them all looking the same. You know, every company has an identity, and they want that front and center on their website, whether it's their colors, whether it's the way they lay things out, whether it's their imagery, or just their font, even their fonts. It's by having a product, like when people are buying SharePoint and they're using Office 365 and SharePoint, they are buying a product. I understand that whole thing, but they want to make it theirs. Like they do want to still spend and invest in making it theirs for their employees. And it's, you know, a lot of small organizations won't do that, but a lot of the bigger ones definitely want to do that. And if they're not going to do it, they're going to do it how they're going to want it. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to have someone like me or somebody else customize it or stretch it to like where they can get it, or they're going to use another product, or they're going to look at other products more seriously. I mean, is the branding a make or break? Sometimes, because marketing, there's the marketing companies that sell intranets, right? And they design them, and then they fit the technology into the design somehow. A lot of the times I've seen that, where they're like, oh, well, we can go with XYZ, but we have SharePoint licenses already, and we have all this other stuff. So they just kind of stick with SharePoint. So I answer the question. I think we should be branding SharePoint, because I want it to feel like it's mine. You know, like, well, I'm part of my organization. That's my thought. So, I mean, I feel free to, if anyone has a counterpoint.
I completely agree. Your point.
You said it really well.
Yeah, like your point about identity of a company's intranet representing their identity, even internally, is very well taken. We hear the exact same thing. Yeah,
that's good. And then you'll have people argue with, it's an app, just use it. It's like PowerPoint. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It is not.
It's like Teams. You don't brand Teams, right? Well, maybe we will.
You never know.
You might start.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's an excellent question. I love that question.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, it's been great having you. Always good to listen to your opinion on branding. You have tons of experience there. Really enjoyed having you here. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully we see you in person soon somewhere, maybe in New York. Yes. But it was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yep. Great. Hopefully we see you soon in person.
Yeah, well, Microsoft Ignite, not Ignite, the SharePoint conference. I just found out about that. It's in December.
Right.
Live, in person.
This coming December, in person.
Live and in person.
Vegas. In awesome. December in Vegas, yeah.
In Vegas.
So I'll see you there. All right, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Right. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.